Well, you're better off with a trial attorney, a true lawyer who knows it and how to go into the courtroom and try a case, because that lawyer is going to start off as soon as they're hired, gathering what they're going to need should that case actually end up in the courtroom one day.
So are you sure you know what a trial attorney is and when you might need one? That's what we're going to find out on this episode of Ask the Lawyer. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest on this episode is attorney Brian Davis of the Davis Law Group in Asheville, North Carolina. Brian, thank you for answering our questions today.
Glad to help.
So let's start with a little definition. What is a trial attorney?
Well, a trial lawyer is someone who is specially trained in advocacy. Generally, there is advocacy taught in law school, but then beyond that, there are courses that attorneys can take who want to become true advocates in the courtroom. And a trial lawyer is just that. He is someone who fights for his clients in the courtroom.
So I think most people probably think all lawyers are trial lawyers. So that's not the case then?
No, that is certainly not the case. In fact, it's actually sort of the opposite of that. Most attorneys are not trial lawyers. Most attorneys, even attorneys who handle injury cases, do not try cases. It's actually a very small percentage of all attorneys who actually go into the courtroom, are able to competently pick a jury and present evidence to that jury and persuade the jury to find in their client's favor.
So let me ask what is probably a dumb question. If I hire an attorney for I'm injured in a collision, and they're not a trial attorney, how do they handle my case? How can they do that if they're not prepared to go in a courtroom?
Well, that's a really good question, and the answer is not very well. A lot of lawyers who do injury cases sort of do them with the expectation that they are going to settle. And they sort of get in trouble when they do that because they don't do their homework on the front end. In other words, they don't do the hard work of going out into the field, boots to the pavement, if you will, gathering facts, interviewing witnesses, salting down the facts, as I call it, and getting the stuff that you need early on so that if the case has to go to court, if it's one of those that actually ends up in front of a jury a year or 2 years down the road, you've got the evidence that you need. Most attorneys sit back and wait and hope the case will settle. And what happens, unfortunately, too often is that a lot of lawyers end up taking whatever the insurance company's top offer is pre-suit. And, I call it like I see it. That's really not doing what is best for the client in a lot of cases.
That leads to the next question. Why am I better off then? Why is it best for me if I say let's continue this scenario. I'm injured in a collision, in a truck collision. Why am I better off with an attorney who is a trial attorney?
Well, you're better off with a trial attorney, a true lawyer who knows it and how to go into the courtroom and try a case, because that lawyer is going to start off as soon as they're hired, gathering what they're going to need should that case actually end up in the courtroom one day. In other words, they're going to do the investigation that needs to be done. They're going to gather the evidence, such as the electronic control module evidence off of the truck. That's the electronic data that all tractor trailers have mounted to their engine that records data whenever there's a crash. A lot of lawyers who handle just garden variety injury cases don't know that that evidence even exists. You need a trial lawyer who's experienced, if it's a trucking case, who's experienced in trucking, so that they know what's out there and they know how to gather it and preserve it so that if your case ends up going into the courtroom, they can handle it, present it, persuade with it, and get a good verdict.
So Brian, do the insurance companies know which attorneys are quick to settle and which ones are willing to go to a courtroom, and does that make a difference?
You better believe they know. And they actually keep statistics on which lawyers try cases and which ones settle for whatever the top offer from the insurance company is. And you better believe that they would much rather have one of those settling lawyers than a trial lawyer. Because it means they're not going to end up having to pay out as much money.
Right. So speaking of paying out money, Do I need to be prepared to pay out money to hire a trial attorney? What if I think I can't afford a trial attorney for my case?
Well, the answer is you don't need to worry about that, because trial attorneys work on what are called contingency fees. And a contingency fee means the attorney gets a percentage of the total recovery, whatever that is. So generally, like in my firm, there's no upfront money at all from a client. Client doesn't have to worry about even paying the costs as we go forward, because our firm actually advances all of the costs or loans those amounts to the client as the case is going on, with the understanding at the end, when there's a recovery, those costs would be deducted from the recovery. So the client doesn't have to come out of their pocket at the beginning of the case, because, you know, they've just been through a horrible experience. They're probably, you know, dealing with medical bills and lots of other things. And the last thing they need to worry about is, how can I afford a lawyer?
Maybe I should have established this up front, Brian, but you yourself are an experienced trial attorney, correct?
I am. I've tried, I don't know, I've lost count, but it's somewhere close to 100 jury trials.
Now, that doesn't mean that you will never settle, that you're never going to settle the case, but it means you're prepared to take it all the way.
Well, yes, it does. Oftentimes, cases settle, you know, on the courthouse steps. Oftentimes, they settle after you pick a jury. I had a case back in January, actually, that settled just before the jury was going out to start deliberating. Wow. So cases settle at all different times, both before you get to the courtroom and even after you get to the courtroom.
All right. Once again, very helpful information, Brian. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for answering our questions.
My pleasure. Take care.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Brian Davis of North Carolina. If you want the best information, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, make sure you go to askthelawyer.com first. Also, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking below. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with askthelawyer.com.